And now we're learning the Sikha, we're continuing the Sikha, the speech of the Lubavitcher Rebbe in Parshas Metzora. And it's talking about the same thing that the mimer that we just learned, namely the Metzora, we said, is a Torah affliction that comes because people say slanderous things, damaging things against one another. And a person that speaks slanderously, so he separates between people, and he makes discord in the world. Discord in the world. And 1 second. 1 minute. All right. So the Rebbe said that therefore this person, the Metzora that we're talking about, this is one of the worst sins there can be, because it causes discord between people. It how do you say, it fractures the Jewish people. And the whole power of the Jewish people is when there's unity. Arguments is okay. Arguments is always different opinions. Wonderful. God wants everybody to have different opinions. To have arguments is no problem, but to hate each other is a very bad thing. And that's what the Metzora is being punished for, because he caused discord and hatred especially between Jews. So therefore, his punishment is that it's the worst type of impurity, next to death, next to the dead body. It's the worst impurity that there is. Worst impurity. And he has to sit outside of all the camps. It says he has to be also even away from other impure people. He's even worse than all the other pure people. So he's the furthest away. So this is talking about the Jews that are like the lowest of the low, the lowest of the low. They can only do bad. They can only do bad. So it says, nevertheless, it says v'huva ala Kohen. It says huva. What does it mean, huva ala Kohen? That God will arrange it, that every single Jew, no matter who it is, every single Jew will come back to God. I mean, maybe there'll be some exceptions, but I don't know. In any case, let's say what the Rebbe says, not what I say. Every single Jew is going to come back to God. That's what it says. Lo yidach mimeno nidach. Even the most pushed away Jew, this Jew was sitting outside. He's forced to sit outside of all the camps. He did these terrible things. As he will also come back, like it says, Lo yidach mimeno nidach. Even the most pushed away Jew will not be pushed away. In other words, what is the Rebbe trying to do? That's why the Rebbe is the Moshiach. In addition to the fact that he fills all the criterion that the Rambam say, and etc. But in addition to that, the main job of the Moshiach is to make everybody understand what God is and how necessary it is to recognize what God is. Necessary for all mankind. And what is God? That on one hand, God creates everybody. But even more, God cares. God answers prayers. God answers prayers. You don't have to pray to people or to statues or to things. You pray only to the Creator. And the Creator answers. He answers in His way. He gives you what you need, not what you want. Maybe sometimes what you want is what you need. He'll give it to us. So that's the big problem in the world now, is that God is not recognized by anybody. I mean, there are certain people, and it's supposed to be that it's recognized by everybody. And for the simple reason that God is creating everybody. He's infinitely close to every human being in the world. He's creating every single person with love and care, and listens to all prayers and etc. That's what is lacking in the world: a recognition and a appreciation of our Creator. He's creating everything. So it says, this all depends on the Jews. The Jews are special. The Jews are God's people. The Jews are the sons of God. You know what that means? There's one whole religion that has about 2.5 billion people that believe in somebody just because he's the son of God. The fact of the matter, he is the son of God. I mean, every Jew is the son of God. So imagine if all these people can make this terrible mistake. I mean, the whole religion that they have is just a big mistake. It's just a big lie, right? Just because a person is the son of God means you have to worship him. You have to pray to him. You have to, right? He can make up his own Bible. Of course not. But on the other hand, it is a very special thing to be the son of God. And every single Jew is the son of God. Every single one. And not only does everybody not believe in the Jews don't even believe in themselves. We don't believe how precious we are and how responsible we are for the whole entire world. So that's, first of all, it says, even the Jews that are the furthest away, they're outside of all the camps. And they want absolutely nothing to do with Judaism. They hate Judaism. They're opposite Judaism. Here, even this guy, this Yashkel, the JC, is a Jew. The furthest you could possibly get away from Judaism, but he'll also be brought back. That no one will be pushed away from God. That's what he says. God's going to wake us up to who we really are. That's all, simply. Because aber der Eibishter, as the Arus Atshuva, Zol Sov Sov, der Nemen, der Yidden, and Epinemius, says God will make it that this arousal of Jewish identity will be awakened in the innermost recesses of the soul of every Jew. And therefore, the Eibishter, God had to ein schleppen. He had to excuse me, I made a mistake. Ein gestalt. Therefore, God made it as their inyan from biyad chazaka, that this thing that God takes us with a powerful hand, zol sof kol sof poil, and it will cause the kochos nefesh nefshim. This will awaken the soul of the Jew himself. As zayin tshuva, that his tshuva will be mitzad zayin kochos, his own powers, zayin ratzon seichel, etc. It's like there was a lecture, Rabbi Yechezkel Sofer in Israel, very good lecturer, and he says it's like somebody breaks into your house to steal, right? And you catch him, you turn on the light, you have a gun, the guy lives. So there's three things you could do, right? Basically, there's two things you can do. One is to neutralize him. You tie him up until the police come. Tie him up, but the best thing is to convince him. To convince him to do good. I happen to know someone in South Africa that a black guy broke into his house and wanted to steal. And he caught everybody over there in South Africa. They're all armed and they know how to use. So he caught the guy and he held a gun on him. And the guy started to cry. And he said he just needs food for his family. So, please don't give me to the police. Who's going to provide for my family? So this Jewish guy, I know the guy. I met him. So he said, okay, you know what? He said, I believe you. And I'll tell you what, you need money for your family? You can work by me. He said, really? Said the cry, they hugged each other. Yes, I don't know if they hugged each other. I made that up. Anyway, they're just, to be theatrical. But the fact that, let's take the bones, the fact is that he said, really? Yeah. And he said, yeah, you can work for me. Come back tomorrow. And he came back the next day and he's working. As far as I know, he's still working for him. I don't know. Maybe I think that's the, happy ending. So what happened? In other words, he could have just neutralized the guy and got rid of the thief. But suddenly looked at him and he said, listen, I see you're not really a thief. You want to be, you could be a really good thief. The guy was a strong guy. He was an able-bodied person. That's why I wanted him to work for him. He said, listen, I think you'd rather be helpful than to be, why hurt somebody to benefit your family? Here you can benefit everybody. So yes, that's what I want, And they did. And he did. He worked for him. Now he's okay. So basically, that's the idea. We have potential we don't know anything about. And the potential is waiting there. But God has to wake it up. But he's going to wake it up in a way that we are going to reveal our potential. It's not that God is going to say, if you ever do this again, you're going to get zapped. I have a gun. I know where you live. God's not going to do that. He's going to do it in a way that we will be awakened, right? Just like the story that I said just now, that fellow that he worked, the black guy that worked for the Jew over there, he didn't do it because he was afraid he was going to get caught. He did it because he wanted to work. He wanted to work. He wanted to be beneficial to the world. Und das is their beer. That's the explanation. What's free, or what's previously zok their pasuk v'huva el Kohen. You have to bring him to the Kohen forcefully. And afterwards it says v'yotzei Kohen al machutz l'nachana. What does it mean? The Kohen comes to him. The techila, the beginning of making this mitzora, pure tshuva. This comes from a revelation from above. Was is nit shayech zum matzav u'makom ruchni, which has no relation to what the situation of the person that's receiving it. Und zu sein ratzon, to his will. Und this means hovel Kohen, that you have to bring him. First of all, he is brought. It says he is brought forcefully to the Kohen. Azervet arois gefiert, from sein makom, he has to be taken from his place. Und wird gebracht zum Kohen, he has to being brought to the Kohen, exactly the opposite of what he wants. Right? He wants to eat not kosher food. He wants to do whatever he wants to. He wants to be. This is the opposite of what he wants, or at least what he thinks he wants. Aber darnach, but afterwards, like this story I just told you, right? The guy breaks into a house, and what does he want? He wants to succeed. He wants to come up with a couple $1,000 or something like that, and then he'll be happy. He'll have for his family. Is that really what he wants? That's not what he really wants. All of a sudden, the lights come on. He's got a gun trained on him, right? Drop your weapon, turn around slowly, right? He's forced. What's he going to do now? He's forced. You got a choice. You want to go to jail? You want to have a bullet through your head? You want to follow orders? Or maybe you'd like to be a productive citizen. What would you like to do? First says, well, I would sort of like to, he could lie. The guy could lie. No, I want to be a productive citizen. I promise I will. And then just go and rob somebody else. But suddenly he was forced to, but it woke something up in him. And that's what's going to happen to every single Jew. Every single Jew is going to be forced some sort of a situation that he's going to wake up his true identity. As his orus, this arousal has to be drawn in them, or in the place, medrega vu der metzora gefinzach. It has to be drawn. I'll keep using the example in the scene of the crime. Because they are zayin tahora, in order that his refinement zolkumen nit should come not only from the Kohen, nor oich mitzad dem metzora, from the metzora himself. Mitzad zem ratzon un seichel, etc. That the metzora himself will, in his situation where he is, he'll make the decision that, you know what, I'm misusing my life. I'm misusing my potentials. Right? The potential that I got to be a thief, right? I'm misusing that. I can use that same energy to do good things. Undurach them, by means of this, and the same thing with every Jew. Every Jew basically is being a thief. What do you mean being a thief? You're taking the energy and the powers and the sensitivities that God gave us and misusing them, stealing from the Creator, breaking and entering. Undurach them, but by means of this, the Tahora Vert oiv ketan, oiv mitzad dem makom. But when all of a sudden we catch ourselves and we say, this is really what I want to do with my life. One second, I'm a Jew. I forgot all about it. When this happens, then next page. The Metzora Gufa, then the Metzora himself. Too big, maybe not. Let's see. There we go. Then the Metzora himself, this person himself, that he was the impure person, sitting outside of all the camps. michutz l'machaneh, as oich di zadonos, that even his purposeful sins that he did, ver nefach lezechuyos, they'll be transformed to be merits. Ver they're done, then hecher from a tzaddik, he'll be higher than even a tzaddik. Was this kind of nitkaven chutz l'machaneh, outside of the camp. And let's take this example. I keep on bringing it up, but it popped into my mind, and it seems to be a very good one. Let's say that this guy, this black guy in South Africa, the reason he's doing, he never really saw what it was to be beneficial. He thought that he was a worthless person. Everybody treated him to be worthless, right? They treated him to be worthless. He started to believe it himself. What difference does it make? I'll go and steal from people. All of a sudden, somebody appreciated him. Somebody believed in him. Somebody said, you're a human being, you have good potential. It could be you're a genius. It could be you can be a professor, you can be a doctor, whatever. But you should know that sometimes to be a house cleaner, an honest one, and a person that cares is better than being a big professor or a doctor or president of the United States, whatever. He doesn't care. Better, more beneficial. Of course, everybody's mother would like it to say, my son's a president, But between us and God, the way you do a job is more important than what you do. The way you do it, you can be a worker in a store and people come in and you say, hello, good morning, right? You smile at the person. This can heal more people than the biggest professor, than who knows what. Can be. But the thing is, we have to reveal the good that's inside of us. And here we're talking about the Jewish people have this tremendous potential for good, to make the whole world realize that it's not worthwhile to be selfish. It's not worthwhile to be a thief. The Jews aren't the only ones that have this tremendous potential. It's just that by the Jews, the distance between what there is and what their potential is greater than everybody else, because the Jews, like I say, are sons of God. That's a tremendous, right, for a Jew to act like everybody else, right, and not to be thieves or whatever. That's a bigger, I'd say, a bigger disgrace than the other word, right? You see, everybody's taking drugs or something like that. You shouldn't do that. All of a sudden, you say, "Wow, you're the prince. You're the son of the king. What are you taking drugs for? What are you doing? This is the worst of all." There's always stories like that. Wow, I knew your father. Your father was such a wonderful person. How did you fall so low? But when we reveal the what's going to, then afterwards, so first of all, we have to be forcefully brought. This Jew that's the furthest away, he's forcefully brought to the Kohen. And then after that, the Kohen comes out to him, comes out to the place where he is, and transforms all the bad to good. According to what we said before, but we can also understand B'Dorat Rishonim why it was that in the first generations that this Torah portion was called Zot Tihiyeh. Remember, that's how we started the whole thing. Rav Sadia Gaon and Rashi and even the Rambam, they called this Torah portion Zot Tihiyeh. But then the latter generations, the last whatever is 400 years, whatever, Vert Zigerufen Mitzorah. It was called a different name, Mitzorah, a bad name. Remember, that was the question we had in the beginning. Said the Rebbe, the mitis inyan from his the true idea of transforming dark to light, as der choshech gavka, that the darkness itself, zol nepach should be transformed to light, that erst zayin latid lavo. It's only going to happen in the future, which should begin any second now. Well done, because then vet zayin begilei atzmos, they'll be revealed the essence of God. Was nor mitzad im, which only because of it was lagabi im, is or v'choshech, that by God darkness and light are the same thing. God creates evil, he creates good. By God, evil and good is the same thing. But for some reason, God wants the good. As ken zayin ut der ofen from his hapcha, there can be transforming someone who's totally bad to all of a sudden be totally good. Therefore, is B'Doras Rishonim in the first generations, when it was only, we were far away from this redemption that's going to be now. But this transformation is only going to happen now in our generations. Therefore, back in the time of Rav Sadia Gaon, whatever, 1,000 years ago, and Rashi, that was like 900 years ago, and Rambam was 800 years ago, then it was far away from this revelation in the future, which is going to transform everything. There was not shining yet the Yetze HaKohen El Michutz L'Machaneh. There was not yet shining what we said before, that the Kohen goes outside of all the camps and transforms there outside of the camps. What did we just finish saying? That first of all, the Metzora, this evil Jew, has to be brought forcefully to the Kohen. He's brought to do tshuva. And then after that, the Kohen comes out to him. We're talking about the Kohen in this case is a metaphor for God. He's brought forcefully close to God. God arouses in him his true identity. And afterwards, there's a reaction by God that God actually transforms the bad to good. So this thing of the transformation is only going to happen in our generation now. In the generation of Reb Sadia Gaon and all this, there wasn't the power to do it yet. As the Tahoram, Samatzora, Zalkumen, Mitzad the Metzora Gufa, that the purification of the Metzora should come from the Metzora himself. It wasn't transformed. It could be that it was cured, but the disease still existed. Only in our generation can this be transformed. Back then, the Gilui is done. Then it was given Blois, Behuva al Kohen. All you could do is force a person and reveal who he really was. But God's reaction to transform the bad to good wasn't back then. That's only going to be now. Hotman done, so therefore back then, Nachnet Gerufa and the Sidra, therefore this Torah portion, which now we realize the Torah portion is so monumental. It's not just talking about some strange, isolated disease that happened only to bad people thousands of years ago. We're talking about this disease that affects all of the Jewish people and consequently the whole world, of egotism. So now it can be that back then it could be that individuals were changed, but to change the whole entire situation and transform all bad to good, all egotism to godliness, it couldn't be. Only in our generations can it be. Therefore, back then it was called, once again, Beshatman done, Nachnir, we could not yet call it by the name of Metzora. You couldn't call it by a bad name. Because when the purification of the Metzora comes from revelation from above, is nit mitzad ein inyan gufa. It's not from the Metzora itself. Is there Metzora? The Metzora is still a Metzora. There still exists this idea, this disease, if you want to call it, in the world. Egotism. It's not transformed. The disease is not transformed into light, nor only hayos vim and hat gewusst as lati level. But when we knew that in the future, back then, they just knew, they believed that in the future, vet sign, it would be that the darkness would be transformed to light, as Hotman and Gerufen. Therefore, back then, they called it Zot Tihiyeh. This Torah portion was called, this will be Zot Tihiyeh. Namely, the Sadia Gaon and the Rashi and the Rambam, they believed that it will be, and L'Asid Lavu in the future, vet sign Torah to Metzora, that Metzora, this disease, will be transformed to Torah. It will be. But the Verter, the word Torah to Metzora, Zainen Nid, Arayin Genumen, Gavoren, and them Nemen from them Cedra. But this name, they knew it would be, back then, they knew it would be transformed. They knew the bad would be transformed to good, but still, it was not integrated into the name of the Torah portion. Therefore, it was only called Zot Tihiyeh. This will be. They knew that one day, they believed that one day, that the bad, the selfishness would be transformed. Totally. And then Naman name, Zot Tihiyeh, this will be, it will be transformed. Lashon Atid, in the future, is men magish, we stress, as he is an inyan was vet kumen er speter. It's going to come later. It will come, but it's going to come later. It's not the time yet. The time of 1,000 years ago, even 800 years ago, the world was not ready. But in the last generations, which these generations are called the Ikvus of the Mashiach. Now our generation is called the heels of the Moshiach. It can be felt by the Jews. The idea of Mashiach is here, it's coming. Yidden, Heron, the Jews, how do you say, they understand and they feel the Mashiach has to come. It's just standing right on the other side of the wall. Nachmer, even more, that wall already has windows in it, and it has cracks in it. That's what in the Song of Songs says. It says, after there's holes, Nachmer, even more, that the Mashiach says, there's a Zene, it says he's standing right behind the window. We just have to open the window. He's looking through the hole. The Mashiach is peeking through, right? Guckt und is Mashgiach, that he looks and he is, how do you say, observing. Oif uns an us, as his blois was im zet minute. We just don't see him. We don't see the Mashiach is looking at us. Und das is noch, weil because koslenu unser called, because of why? It's because it's our wall. First out, our own way of looking at the world, that's what's preventing us from seeing Mashiach, is the Rebbe Machen Yidden. Therefore, the Jews, now we can make from the Metzora, from pure egotism, from bad, from separation, from evil, we can make now a siddur from the Torah. We can put this, we can integrate this into the Torah. The Torah is now transforming Metzora to Torah. It's part of the Torah. This lake shine the Torah, because there's already in the Torah the revelation of the future from V'layla Kiyom Yo'er, that the night will transform into day. So what's the Rebbe saying over here? Big promise. Big promise. Very hope. We have hope. We're not lost. The world will not continue the way it is, with this darkness and murder and evil and deception, lies. It won't continue. All of these things are ego trips. All the religions in the world, all the philosophies, they're all based on the idea that God is very, very, very far away, and that we have to think about ourselves, we have to save ourselves. This is a big lie. The fact of the matter is that God is very, very, very close, very close. And God himself, he's going to save us. He's going to change our minds. He's going to change the world. First of all, he changes our mind. Number one, that we get more in tune with the Creator. That's called that the Kohen goes out. That's called that the Metzora is brought to the Kohen. He's going to take every single person in the world, the Jews first, and bring them forcefully to the Kohen. And then after that, it says the Kohen goes outside of the camp. God will be revealed, the Creator will be revealed in the furthest aspects of his creation, and change the whole entire world, that the world will be a healthy place, a happy place, a blessed place. All potential, good potential will be revealed. And that's the idea of the revelation of the Rebbe, Melech HaMashiach. He who's writing all this, may he write it, he's Nizkarim V'Nasim, and may it happen. That we should all see a good, pure, healthy world. Now let's learn the Yom Yom. What happened? My grandfather, these are quotes by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. So his grandfather was the fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe, called the Rebbe Marash Rebbe Shmuel. He used to say, the place of a man does not give him the honor, rather a person honors his place. What does it mean? In other words, you sit somebody at the front of the table, in front of you, in front of this, that gives them a big honor, big honor. Well, the fact of the matter is that the person is not an honorable person. How do they say? A person is, when a person enters, he's treated the way he's dressed. And when he leaves, though, he's treated the way he spoke. Right? A person comes in, he's dressed like a big general or a genius or a Talmud Chacham or something. He looks, everybody honors him. He's got clean garments with beautiful shining metals or whatever he has. He opens up his mouth, he talks, all of a sudden. So it's the same thing. Your surrounding is not what gives you the honor. You give honor to your surrounding. What does it mean? One is, the word in Hebrew for kavod means also the liver. The liver of a person is very cold, so to speak. Cold, heavy. It says, kaved lev paro. It says that the heart of Paro became heavy. It also means his heart became like a liver. What's the liver? The liver is not dynamic. The heart, the lungs is moving. The brain also is always thinking, right? It's always thinking, new ideas come. The liver, it's just there, right? It says liver. It's cold and insensitive. Another meaning of kavod means glory, the glory of God. That's what it means. The place of a person, the places shouldn't make, wherever you are, that shouldn't make you cold and insensitive. Because he's changing the meaning of the word back and forth, right? So it says the place of the world, you're in a place that's very depressing, very negative. That should not make you cold and insensitive. Don't be affected by your place. Rather, man honors his place. Man has the capacity and the power to illuminate his environment with the light of Torah. When the soul descends into the body, the soul is given an oath. We talked about this, to be a tzaddik. What does it mean to be a tzaddik? To be completely connected to what God wants. What does God want? That we should have love, fear, learn Torah, but improve the world. Means this oath that God gives us means that he gives us a power, he satiates us, gives us power. Like after you eat a meal, you're empowered, right? You have power. Without a person is generously, and with God gives a person ample power and abilities to fulfill the intention of having the soul come into the world and not be affected negatively by the world, but rather that the soul, even one soul, can affect the whole entire world. So it is, you can improve no matter where you are, no matter what place you are. Think of something good to say, something good, do something good, and you'll see that the whole entire world has changed. Which is, by the way, is a common thing you can see if you're in a conversation with people and it gets turned to a bad direction. So you can just bring up a positive thing. Bring up a positive thing. You know, I heard that the Torah was given to 3,300 years ago by God to the Jewish people. Somebody say, who told you that? I don't believe it. Some people don't. All of a sudden the conversation is gone on Torah and commandments instead of talking about, what's going on, and is putting a good guy, is putting a bad guy. Is the corona, you have to wear a mask, Thinking about Torah, thinking about commandments, you can change the whole world with one good deed, word, or even thought. And that's the whole purpose of what they're saying over here. Have a good day with Moshiach. Now, God willing, at 3:00, we will learn Chumash with Rashi.